Joining me now is Dave Gobbets. He's back. We had him on last week, but he's back to talk about this. Iran sends out suspected operational trigger to activate sleeper cells abroad after Khomeini's death, U.S. officials warn. That's the New York Post. Here is ABC News. Iran may be activating sleeper cells outside the country, alert says. David, welcome back to the broadcast. Thank you for being with us. Let's talk about this. Is this something you're concerned about, or is this theater? Is it predictive prophecy, if you will? False flag preparation? I don't know, because the whole thing is weird after New York City this weekend with that guy lighting that bomb, supposedly, and then jumping over a police barricade. And then, of course, it didn't go off. That seemed fake to me. That's not how real terrorists operate. You know more than I do. So I don't know what that was all about. And now you have this alert. I'm just trying to figure out if we're being played at some level or conditioned at some level. What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts on that, Brandon, are the Fatah from Iran, the supreme leader, apparently, I think it is 100% true. Because for this reason and this reason only, there are thousands and thousands of sleeper cells across the world, and many, many in the United States. Many of these individuals are lone wolves, as they want to call them, although they're acting on Islamic orders. So the people who are getting this word, the Fatah, say in the United States, they don't second guess. Is he kidding with us? Does he really want us to do it? It is 100% true. The supreme leader wants individuals to go out and start committing individual terrorist attacks across the United States and across other countries that support America.
So what do you think is going on with regards to officials across the country? How are they preparing for a potential increase in terrorist attacks from activated terror cells? And what would those look like? And did we just hear about another shooting at a bar the other night, Logan? How many shooters was that? 2 shooters, wasn't it? Where was that? You were the one that told me about it. Yeah, and we were traveling back, and he said there's been a couple shooters, and I think it was a bar, and and that's what we've been talking about for several years, 2-3 man teams. So I can't remember where that was, Logan. You can tell me in my ear if you find it again. But are these the kind of things that you're talking about, and how do you think local officials are preparing for this?
Well, I have to say, sadly, that local officials, it's a little bit too late because the majority of the officers are first-line defenders in law enforcement, are not trained nor are they prepared to prevent individual lone wolf-type terror attacks. There's very, very little. We saw this when I was in Iraq, is that the Iranians were paying the Iraqis $100 for every IED that they would put down. There was no way to stop that. We had no idea where they were coming from. In the United States, you got individuals who have been preparing this for many months, sometimes years, and they don't advertise it. And they're very, very good. They're very patient, so they don't advertise. And they can commit attacks all across the U.S. with very, very minimal law enforcement activity going against them. Our law enforcement, sadly, are very good defensively. They're great at responding, but they have not been prepared to go offensive. And to do that, Brandon, our law enforcement, they're the best in the world, but they've got to start going in the mosque. That is where the training is being conducted, inside the mosque, and mosques are off limits to U.S. law enforcement.
And I don't see that changing.
No, It won't change.
due to
We
the
had the
political
same
correctness.
thing. That's right. In Iraq, we had the same thing. We weren't supposed to go in hospitals or mosque. And of course, that's exactly where they were keeping their bomb material, and that's where they were hiding out. The mosque or safe houses for Islamic terrorists.
So political correctness, which is really cultural Marxism, is killing us in the West, and it will kill us in the West. And isn't that interesting that cultural Marxism has prepared the way for the Islamists to get a free pass with their mosque being the armories and the training centers for jihad. So that again shows you the Marxist laid the way and laid the foundation for the Islamist, which brings us that red-green axis. But we shouldn't be shocked with that because we know that Yasser Arafat was getting training from the Soviets, right?
Exactly. And continues to this day.
And I know a lot of people want to defend Putin, defend Russia. They want to make everything about China. They want to make everything about Islam, but they never want to say anything about Russia. There's too many apologists for Putin in America today. And I don't know if that's because these people are tied to the Russian Orthodox Church or what it is. Now, I'm not saying that Putin doesn't have a right to defend his borders. I'm not saying Putin doesn't have a right to protect his country. But just because Putin has a right to do certain things, or because NATO and other countries have done stupid things to try to provoke war with him, doesn't mean that Putin and the FSB, formerly the KGB, aren't still people that are operating with our enemies like Iran and China. How much do you think Russia is involved in what's happening with all of this in America, the disinformation, the misinformation, the cultural Marxism? Because if they've been working with the Islamists and Gaddafi, or Yasser Arafat, I should say, are they still working the Islamists here in America, you think?
Oh, of course. Russia has been our enemy for many years, although we have had better relations in the last several years under Trump with the Russians. But Russian intelligence are all over America, just like the CIA is in most every country there is, and they're conducting operations. The Russians are in America. When I was a federal agent, we had many, many cases involving Russian intelligence being spying against our government and also major corporations, and then coordinating with their foes here in America, like the Islamic terror groups.
Let me go to a clip of President Trump this afternoon on the terror cells in the U.S. Here's President Trump.
Activated any sleeper cells inside the U.S. There's reports that they have pressed that trigger button to activate those cells, at least abroad.
Well, they've been trying for a long time. We've been very much on top of it. One of the things we have to do is get the Democrats to stop the Democrat shutdown, because, as you know, the apparatus that looks into that, Schumer and the Democrats have shut it down, which tells you they probably hate our country a lot. But the Democrats have to open that up. But we've got very, very good intelligence into that. We know a lot of different things that have happened that have been very bad. A lot of them came in during the Biden open border period, but we have them under, we've got them, we're watching every single one of them. Yeah, we know a lot about them. The biggest problem we have is the Democrat shutdown. We know a lot about them, but the shutdown doesn't allow us to do what we have to do.
Now, wait a minute. I'm not going to disagree with what he said, but it's not the Democrats that are stopping us from doing what we need to do. And what we need to do is get into these mosques undercover and investigate them and shut them down. The Democrats aren't stopping us from doing that. The Republican leadership, the White House, President Trump, under executive orders or secret, authorization that he can give as president to protect the homeland, he could do that tonight. Could he not?
Yes, he could. And I support President Trump 100%, but I've always said that he is doing an outstanding job overseas with Islamic terror groups, but inside America, it's being neglected. And I consider our first line defenders against Islamic terror groups, the sleeper cells in America, to be our sheriff departments across the United States. You've got the FBI, of course, and DHS and our intel groups at the federal level, but our sheriffs are the ones who have the true power and authority. If they were not handcuffed by the federal government, many of these sheriffs would be investigating people inside the mosque. I've come across it all over America where sheriffs tell me that they cannot go into the mosque, not because they do not want to, but because they know the federal government would come down hard on them. And for that reason and that reason alone, sleeper cells are going unnoticed across America.
All right. We did find, I think this is it, the shooting in Brooklyn. One victim severely injured. 4 people were injured in a shooting during a bar brawl in Brooklyn early Sunday morning. I don't know if that's the one we were talking about the other night. I don't know if that's Islamic related or not. Doesn't sound like it. But don't be shocked, though, if you see more terrorist attacks in the U.S. And if I had to guess, based on the reporting we've done in the past, we could get to the point where we see 2- and 3-man teams, right, David?
Yes, of course. You're always going to have the one man that goes out and does his individual acts. But the more coordinated, what the Iranian leader is calling for are the actual groups of like 2+ to go out and start coordinating individual attacks across America. And sadly, they know where to target. As I was told when I was in Iraq by Al Qaeda and Saddam Fedayeen, they said the way they're going to conduct future attacks in America is to go after the hearts of the American people. And I asked them what they meant by that. And over again, they said the hearts of the American people are the children. That is the fastest way and the best way to terrorize Americans is to start targeting our children. And there are plenty of schools across the United States that should be prepared. We should have our sheriffs starting to protect our children because the number one target is going to be the children of Americans.
Any other warning before we let you go tonight, David?
No, I appreciate it, Brandon. Just like I've always said to you, the people should just be prepared. Don't be scared. Don't panic. Just prepare yourself for the unlikely events that you are stuck at home, you have no gas, you have no food. Don't let that happen to you. Be prepared, get the water, the food, and make sure your defense systems are intact.
Indeed. And I didn't ask you to say that, did I?
No, you didn't.
I did not ask him to say that. But I'm going to tell you right now, folks, if you want to take advantage of what he's talking about, we have a store that we put together because you guys asked for it back in 2016. 2016, we put together this store with all this emergency gear, and we just got another shipment in, by the way, of freeze-dried food. This is real food. It's just freeze-dried food, and it's actually good food. We've got emergency supplies. We've got, medical kits, suture kits, all kinds of things that you need, and then the emergency food supplies themselves, like David's talking about. I have enough for several years, folks, not only for my family, for the guys in the control room, but also because I would be willing to barter with this. I don't know what you think about this, David, but if there's a crisis in the country or a financial crisis, I'm telling you right now, people will be willing to barter with freeze-dried food. It will become a medium of exchange. So I've piled in enough to have extra as a medium of exchange that I need to give to a plumber or electrician or a doctor to do some stitches. You know, I got doctors in my neighborhood. And all kinds of things you can think of. I'm telling you, if there's a disruption in shipping and shipping lanes or infrastructure, attacks on infrastructure, food could disappear off the shelves very fast. We saw that during COVID. But imagine something longer term. And I'm telling you, folks, I'm all for you to I don't give financial advice, I give financial opinion. And I'm all for you investing in precious metals, and that is a great option for hedge against inflation. But as far as a medium of exchange, I'm telling you, in my opinion, freeze-dried food, you're going to be able to barter that and use that as a medium of exchange in a crisis. And so I would urge you to do that. What are your thoughts on that, David?
No, I agree 100%. The food is going to be one of the best bartering tools there is, initially anyway, above silver and gold. Silver and gold is going to mean nothing when your children have no food. So the water, and people need to understand that our water supplies can be contaminated very, very quickly. So make sure you store some type of fresh water, food, and remember that, as Brandon said, you can barter the food because people have to eat.
Yep. And you can go to Lowe's and get these 5-gallon, I think those are 5-gallon jugs. And I got a ton of those. I have a ton of the 5-gallon jugs of water. Because, like David said, if they poison the water or we end up with a problem with chips, different things that are needed for pumping water and treating water plants, you don't want to be without food and water. So again, store in your 5-gallon jugs of water from Lowe's, put them in your garage, wherever you want to store them. And then, of course, you're going to need the water so you can do the boil the water and then have freeze-dried food. But again, I think this is a great alternative for a medium of exchange. And yet most people don't think that way. You've been in war zones, David, and you know that when a crisis happens, people, the number one thing they're looking for is food and water and medical treatment, right?
Yes, that's exactly what we saw. I went into Iraq at the very beginning of Operation Iraqi Freedom, and initially, because Saddam had contaminated much of the water supply there intentionally, the troops, we were given 4-liter bottles per day initially, and we could use it to shave, wash, or drink, and we chose to use it to drink. I highly encourage, at the first sign of any type activity that you think we're going to be without food or water, people should use their bathtubs and fill up 1 or 2 bathtubs if they've got them, and that's a good 7,500 gallons of water.
Absolutely. Worldviewstore.com. Again, we just got a brand new shipment of freeze-dried food in just the other day. So there you go. Worldviewstore.com. David has a book with Paul Sperry, Muslim Mafia. I highly recommend it. You'll find it out there on Amazon. Muslim Mafia by Dave Gobbets and Paul Sperry. As always, David, thank you for being the watchman on the wall, trying to warn us of what's here. And isn't it interesting, all the years that we've been talking about terror cells, and I'm sure people thought, oh, it's doom and gloom, they're just trying to scare people. And now we have the president of the United States saying, yep, we're monitoring this, we're on this, we have lots of information. And the authorities are putting out warnings about terror cells being activated. And yet we were called conspiracy theorists or panicking people. And yet, no, we were trying to prepare people. And here we have the president tonight talking about potential terror cells being activated. Closing comment?
Yes, Brennan, I agree. In 2007, I wrote an article, and people can look this up if they just Google Gobbets sleeper cells. I wrote an article in 2007 explaining exactly what we're seeing today.
2007. Incredible. Almost 20 years ago. Amazing. Dave, thank you as always. What's your email if people want to reach out to you?
It's davegobbets@gmail.com. And I thank you, Brandon.
Thank you, David. Dave Gobbets checking in tonight. Get his book, Muslim Mafia. We'll be right back after this break. Go to worldviewtalk.com. Get your satellite phone like I have, because you know what? China is in on our power grid. That is a matter of proven fact. If you want to have communications with your loved ones, your family, your children, maybe your spouse travels, maybe you have a child away at college, you want communication should the grid go down. That's why you need a satellite phone, worldviewtalk.com. But look what else they have. They also have solar generators. I have one of their solar generators. I have the Delta Echo 400, a solar generator. So I can, of course, charge my satellite phone. I can run my coffee pot. I can run my whole house if I want to. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com, or use that number, 1-866-738-3224. They have very friendly operators that will explain to you their products, but you can explain to them what it is you're desiring to acquire. How much electricity are you wanting to generate with this solar generator? Well, they'll tell you what size you need. Worldviewtalk.com or 1-866-738-3224.